Is there any unemployment in India for pilots as of now? The tough question that nobody in pilot training industry actually addresses. We have addressed this question repeatedly in on this podcast. What's up, what's up, what's up? Welcome back to India's number one pilot podcast. And once again, we welcome you to our channel. Thank you for viewing, watching, subscribing. And today would be the first in all 54 episodes that we are doing this episode without Captain Neha. So,
Yes.
preferably try not expecting any technical questions from this specific podcast.
Yes.
Because I and Chintan's vertical into this podcast is adding a bit of humor, then spreading some wisdom and sharing some experiences, some stories from our training periods. So that is what we do. Now, there are certain. Go ahead. Yeah.
Yes, and
Yeah,
like,
introduce
yes.
because
in the previous podcast, like whenever we end the podcast, we ask you guys to comment on the podcast so that whatever topics we are not able to discuss on the podcast, we get back to you in the comments. But now the number of comments are so much, and so each and every question is different. So to answer it, okay, we are doing this podcast to answer all of your questions. So make sure whenever you go through our podcast or in future, whenever you are watching Pilot Podcast, leave a comment if you have any questions or feel free to reach out to us.
absolutely. So there are so many comments. We are sorry that we haven't yet replied to, but we will reply to those one by one. At the same time, let's address those questions on this podcast. Okay. So that is what we are here for. Now we'll start with questions one by one, if that's okay with you.
Yes.
With your permission, let's do this. The idea behind this is to solve your doubts. That's it. And any perspective that we share will be of our own. It has served us, our view has served us, and our hope is that it serves you as well. At the same
Yes.
time, make your decisions upon assessment of your own situation, because you are in a position to assess your situation the best. Okay, what we will be sharing is our stories that may be relevant to your questions, and if from those stories if you get to learn something, then that is great. That is what we want here. Okay, if that makes sense, let's go. So question from Akshay goes like, make video about difficulties or challenges faced by cadet pilots and how to overcome those.
So if let's first explain the question. So
Yeah.
I get two perspective of this question. One is to prepare for the cadet pilot program, and another one is once you get selected in the cadet pilot program, what all difficulties or challenges do you
Right.
face? So we'll address both of those things. Okay.
Absolutely.
So for the cadet pilot program selection process, we have already made a podcast for it. So now let's say if the student has just cleared this 12 standard and have applied for the cadet pilot program, it is recommended to give their DGCA exams prior to the selection process. This is just a recommendation which will help you in the selection process.
Absolutely.
And your maths and physics have to be brushed up. You should practice on a daily basis around 10 to 20 mathematical questions, revise physics formula and stuff to prepare for your maths and physics round.
Yeah.
And also you can start practicing English, because if you, let's say, now it also depends on everyone's situation. So if you are a person who is in an environment where on a day-to-day basis you communicate in English, you do listen to English, whatever movies, communications and stuff, then this might not be relevant. But if you think that you are in a situation where the mode of communication is other than the English language, then you should consider practicing speaking at least 30 to 45 minutes a day, so that on the day of interview, it won't be alien thing to you. You will be in the flow of speaking English, of communicating with the interviewers. And Post that, you will have a psychometric test. So there are no right or wrong answers to that, but you have to have that mindset of a pilot. And post that, you will have an adapt exam or CUTI, and there are many different names to this exam. So it basically tests your hand-eye coordination. So how well you play video games, or how well you are at multitasking, or if a task is given to you, first they'll let you know, okay, this is the task, then they'll give you to practice that task, and then they'll see if you can get better at that given task. And then followed by group discussion, where communication is the most important thing, then your knowledge about aviation, then your passion about aviation, how do you work in a team, are you able to like support members who are not able to get along with your thoughts. So that will be tested in the group discussion. And then personal interview, you will be tested upon your reasoning why you want to become a pilot. Do you have the skill set to work in an airline as a pilot? So the interviewers will test based upon the answers you give, and then depending on that, you will be getting results. So most challenges people face in the cadet pilot program interview is, I would say, anxiety or feeling under pressure when they appear for the interview. Because when you go for an interview, there are, for any airline, there are captains sitting in front of you. There'll be around 4 to 5 people who are very experienced. So seeing them, you always feel that, okay, what if I give an answer wrong? What will they think about me? But now you tell me one thing. Let's say you are sitting in an interview in front of the interviewer, and if you are thinking that, okay, my answer is right or wrong, what is the interview thinking? So that energy, which can be used to improve your performance in the interview, your mind is wandering somewhere else. So focus is more important. So if you are focused, if you are calm, okay, your interview will go good. Okay, it's okay to not know things in the interview, but if you lose your calm, not knowing things in the interview, then your performance will go down, and that will affect the interview.
Absolutely. That makes 100% sense. At the same time, like you said, Chintan, two segments in this, right? One is getting selected is one challenge. Second is after getting selected, then the steps that there are. So getting selected, like Chintan said, like it can be different kinds of psychometry tests that test different areas, such as your hand to eye coordination, then your adapt personality or personality questionnaire, or different personality tests that might be there. The reason for is primarily flight safety. It is a mandate by most of the authorities in the world that pilots have to be tested for their personality. Then apart from that, group discussion. So ultimately, the non-technical part of this assessment is one, to know that are you a good person? One. Now, good person, what is a good person? How would you define a good person? Okay, a good person would be someone who follows the rules, has good intentions at heart, and doesn't lose themselves, who they are, even when things become difficult. A person behaves good all the while, but probably not the best when he is angry. Is that a good person in that moment, right? Or sad, okay, out of sadness does the person do weird things? Would that person be a good person in that moment? So those are the things. Now specifics into these adapt and personalities and all of these, we have discussed those in previous podcasts. English, which Chintan said, okay, we have had a whole podcast on ELP. Okay, so go through that podcast. Okay, that will definitely help. Now moving forward, after getting selected, what would be the challenges? After getting selected, challenges would be, so when we speak about challenges, you can call it as a learning curve to overcome. Okay, so certain learning curves may not be that significant for some people, those may be significant ones for the others. Okay, now what are the learning curves after getting selected? One is knowledge. That would be DGCA exams, correct?
Hmm.
Preparation.
Yes.
If you haven't cleared your DGCA exams before getting into cadet pilot program, then that would be DGCA exams.
Yes.
I had it cleared before getting in. Chintan did it after finishing his American CPL. In our view, after going through all of it, what do you think? Like doing it beforehand would be a better
Yes.
choice, right?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, that is one. Because after selection, nowadays, most airlines have maximum number of attempts, that is 2 attempts, that is allowed in most of the cadet pilot programs. So
Yes.
there is enough pressure from airline side.
But that
And
doesn't mean that you take more than 2 attempts
yeah,
to clear.
absolutely.
Clear
does
it in
not.
the first attempt. Try to score
Yeah.
above at least
Yeah.
85 to 90 marks.
100%.
And yeah, because you are going. So your marks are going to be there on your CV whenever you go for the cadet pilot program. And let's say if you are a student who have just cleared their 12th, so until you wait for the result, you can use that time or utilize
Yeah.
that time to prepare for the DGCA exam. As soon as you get your results, you can apply for the cadet pilot program and also apply for your computer number and give your DGCA exams.
Absolutely, 100%. Then now, after clearing DGCA exams, next stage is your flying. And every step that we mention has an associated paperwork with it. Paperwork in India is a challenge, okay?
Yes.
Everything that you need for that paperwork is accuracy of it and patience for it, right?
Yes.
Anything else to add about paperwork, right? Yeah, you need to be accurate with every paperwork that you do. And if your parents have been like very hands-on kind of parents always, then it's good time to start doing it by yourself. I would think that way.
Yes,
Like you
yes.
need to do your paperwork yourself, that you take responsibility of it, you understand
100%.
how to do it. Because moving forward, we all do our paperwork ourselves
Yes.
now, right?
Yeah.
And nobody has done it for us in okay, sorry about that. So we have to do it. So start developing the habit of doing paperwork yourself. Next step is flying. So flight training is something that is, as you progress in it, it gets easier. Next day will be easier than today, because it's learning how to fly. It's a skill and it comes with, yes, definitely your efforts. Yes, definitely your time. Yes, definitely your dedication. But one thing that we all don't pay enough attention to is experience, right? With time, it comes. Anything else to add about?
So in flight training, everyone has their own difficulties, I would say.
yeah.
So let's say if I give you an example for me,
Yeah.
when you initially start to fly an aircraft or learn how to fly an aircraft, it will be difficult. You'll be thinking, okay, you are not doing good enough. The instructor will be putting a pressure on you. So that pressure is put on you so that you go home, you study a lot, and then be well prepared for the next flight.
Absolutely.
So that will happen initially, but once you learn the technique, okay, once you learn to land an aircraft, from that day onwards, flying becomes fun. Otherwise, it will be a challenge until you get that trick. And that is like landing is such a thing that there are many theories for it. Okay.
Yeah.
But the landing improves when you follow the procedures of approach
Yeah.
perfectly. So let's say if there is an approach speed of 65 knots for a Cessna 172. So you follow that 65 knots, you follow 700 feet per minute, your landing will be good. But let's say if there is any deviation in those parameters, then you have to make changes at the end when you flare or something. And that's where the landing can go a bit hard or you can float a bit. So you find your own technique, especially when you are about to land. and that will only come with experience. It's not that anyone learns in one day. It will take couple of landings, maybe 10, 15, 25 landings. But once you get that technique, you'll enjoy to fly an aircraft.
Yeah.
Trust me.
True. And
So for
it's
you, what was the challenge? Like
for me, the challenge was, to be honest, like landings, came in eventually. Absolutely, it was okay. My challenge was primarily remembering the SOPs.
Okay.
that was my primary challenge, to be honest. That okay, I have to. So my work, I needed more work in the books. that was
Okay.
like in the books, and more of chair flying, because landing is something, it's like a technique. It's hand to eye coordination. It's your how much you react on a certain undulation or certain change, wind change, and eventually you absolutely, like Chintan said, a good approach is the perfect recipe for a good landing. Without a good approach, good landing is just not possible. And anyone who thinks otherwise eventually will accept this fact that only a good approach can lead to a good landing. Otherwise, it's just not possible. So yeah, my part was primarily the remembering the SOPs, like okay, at this time, okay, this. Okay, so those were the things in my this. Apart from that, it's like pressure of assessments. We all learn it with time.
Yes.
Like someone's watching your performance when it comes to check ride or something. So theoretical vivas and orals, that wasn't a significant problem for me. But when getting into a flight with a check instructor, that would put me, because I think I do critique myself a lot in my own thoughts, that I need this to be perfect. I need this to be that way. I need myself to behave in this way and all. And then when you give me someone who's watching over me, that is like further addition to it. So I learned that handling that pressure with time, that was something for me. That would be the part. And then we all have had difficult days during our flight training, right? There are some days that are good, some days that really suck. So it's just that keep going. Like there is a saying that says like, you're not as bad as you think on your worst day, and you're not as good as you think on your good day. Like it's like, if it is a bad day, don't think too critical about yourself. That is the advice that I gave myself. And if it is a good day, don't pat on your back so much that okay, it's like
that you don't open the books. You're overconfident.
Yeah.
So it's a continuous learning process, and some days will be good, some days will be bad. But especially when the days are bad, just relax a bit. Just see what all things could have been done better, and on the next day try to improve upon it, because that's the way to improve, I would say.
Absolutely. मैंने उल्टा नहीं बोला ना गलती से. You're not as bad as you think on your bad day, and you're not as good as you think on your good day. Correct, right? Yeah, that makes sense, right? You're not as bad as you think on a bad day. Makes sense. Makes sense. Yeah, it's not. Okay, yeah, cool. I don't know who said it. I did not. Okay, somebody did, but it was effective. It was really effective. So yeah, when things get tough, don't be too critical about yourself on that day, because there will be such days that are extremely euphoric. You feel great, that touchdown, that landing, that flight, that handling and everything. You'll feel like, okay, I'm the best now. I know it all. Okay. Yeah, with lower experience, next day could be a really fucking not so good day. It can so happen, right? So that is what it is. And keep going is just focus on the next step. It's like you've got to get to the base camp of Mount Everest before you climb it, right? So yeah, CPL would be that base camp, because
Yes.
the journey is really long, right?
Yes.
Yeah, after CPL, then there is again paperwork, then again type rating, then again airline training, then airline sims, then SLF, no, supernumeraries, then SLFs. So it's a long journey. Okay, so those would be challenges, I think. Anything else to add on challenges?
I think that's it. We have covered it overall. We have not covered each and everything. Just give you
Yeah,
a glimpse of the challenges and
Because-
how to
Yeah.
address it.
yeah, because this is pretty broad
Vast,
topic.
yes.
Like we can go on for an hour about
Yes,
this, right?
Yes, yes.
Like if we start to address like each and every challenge that
starting
we have
from
faced,
day one.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah, then first day in sims, that was like overwhelming. I was like, seriously, like the Cessna. So once you are done with your CPL, you're confident with Cessna and your diamond and all of those things. You feel like, okay, now give me a Cessna, I'll take it anywhere.
Yes.
Right? Yeah, it feels like that. Then you go into 320 cockpit or something. Yeah. So Chintan was, when I went for my type rating, Chintan was almost done with my type rating. Okay. And I was like, Chintan, I think I need your help. Okay. So Chintan came. He showed things around. It's like, what the fuck? This guy has become a superhuman. I don't know shit about this right now. Then eventually, when those 45 days pass, you don't even realize you become that superhuman.
Yes. Very true.
It's like that. And then it's never to let that get into your head that now I know everything. No, we never know everything yet. We never know everything. So when you feel too good about yourself, humble yourself down. When you feel too bad about yourself, don't critique yourself that hard. If that one sentence you keep in mind for this whole 25 minutes 25 seconds, I think that makes sense, Chandan.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
And I don't know who has said that, but the best life to live is the life of the student.
Yeah,
So always be a student, keep learning.
yeah,
On a good day, especially,
yeah,
be a student.
yeah, absolutely, 100%.
Because after type rating, then we go into the company sims. Then
Yeah.
again, we are like, okay.
Now that's another curve.
That is the thing. Then again, we go for soupy. Then again, this is.
yeah,
So at the end of every, let's say once we complete that,
Yeah.
whatever 9-10
Yeah.
sim
Yeah.
sessions are there, we are like, okay, now we know everything. Then we go in the soupy, we
True.
see the line flights, we are like, oh, this is fast. At the end of the soupy 30, let's say once we do
Right.
30 soupies, then we are like, now we know pretty
Yeah,
much.
yeah,
And
yeah.
then we sit on that seat, right seat,
SLFs.
and then we come to know things are real now. it has to
Everything's
be
real.
like this quick.
Yeah. Because there is a
Mhm.
commercial aspect to what you're doing, right? Now, training is done, your actions have real consequences. You don't do it fast enough, flight gets delayed, all of those things. So, yeah, being effective, being efficient, all those things matter when.
And most importantly, correct.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, that's what effective, correct.
correct,
Yeah,
yeah.
correct. Accuracy
Hmm.
is the finding the balance of accuracy versus urgency.
Hmm.
Or worse would be a wrong term, accuracy and,
And
urgency, right? So, yeah, correct.
Correct, yeah.
Because correct is the only safe way that there is, and there is never ever
Hmm.
any compromise on safety. All right, Akshay, we have given you good 27 minutes of explanation on one single comment. So I hope that you are a subscriber, man. But anyway, it's thank you for that comment, Akshay. And anyone who is benefited from this comment and its explanation, we are glad about it. Let's move forward to next one. All right, next question is from Suja. I hope I'm pronouncing that name correctly. Next question goes like, is there any unemployment in India for pilots as of now? The tough question that nobody in pilot training industry actually addresses. We have addressed this question repeatedly in on this podcast. You go from first podcast all the way until 53rd 54th podcast, you'll see so many instances that mention about this. Our narrative on this podcast has always remained that becoming an airline pilot is not easy. At the same time, it's totally worth it. That's our opinion. That's why we have done it. Okay. Does that mean there are no unemployed pilots in India? Definitely not. There are many. Okay. Reasons for that can be various reasons. What would you name for reasons with respect to unemployment for pilots?
So when we say unemployment for pilots, so like every other field, there is unemployment in aviation as well.
Yeah.
So if you take up engineering, okay, whatever number of unemployed pilot engineers are there, similar some percentage of unemployed pilots will be there. Now, one reason would be the inability of the person to clear airline interview. So maybe the training from where that pilot has done, that's not sufficient to be an airline pilot. Then most of the people or the most of the student pilots who join ground school, there the language of teaching is in their native language, mostly Hindi. There's nothing against Hindi, but as the language of aviation is English, the sooner you start practicing it, the better you get at it. And when you go for an airline interview, you will be confident. So I think in the group discussion, in the personal interview, when the interviewer sees that you're not comfortably able to speak English, okay, that could be one of the main reason why people are not able to get through it. Another reason is if a pilot or if a student pilot is not guided properly in sequence by whichever source that student pilot is taking guidance from, he or she may take longer to complete their training, which will increase the expenses. And then at the end of the training, if the student pilot does not have the finances for the type rating, it becomes difficult to apply for the airline if a type rated vacancy have come up. And there's also demand and supply in aviation as well. So right now, let's say after COVID, there have been vacancies coming out every a quarter, I would say, or let's say once in 6 months. So if a student is having a CPL, there is vacancy. So now the student have to just clear the interview. For that, preparation is required. So if the right preparation is done, if the right amount of hard work is done, and the work has been put in, then that student will be a part of the airline. And we have many friends who have cleared the airline interview and are a part of airline now.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if we speak at present, the vacancies which are coming out is few in numbers because of the supply chain issue
Of
which
aircraft
of the
deliveries.
aircraft.
Yeah.
Like Airbus and Boeing are not able to deliver the aircraft on the timely manner. So if that issue is resolved, we can expect a lot of vacancies in the coming next years.
Absolutely. So, looking from an aspiring pilot who's looking for an airline job, who is done with his or her CPL, from that perspective, if I wanna comment anything in addition to what Chintan said, would be that to find constraint, what is the exact reason that he or she is not getting a job? Is it lack of effort, like lack of preparation for
Yes.
the exam interview? So what would be the reflection of lack of effort? Failing an airline exam would be an indication, a clear indication of that person has not prepared enough for the exam, right?
Yes.
Now, if that person works on the effort part, prepares better, okay? See, people may have, everybody, each one of us may have different grasping capacities, okay? But a lower grasping capacity person puts in more work, still meets the requirement, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, absolutely, we are not speaking about extremely low grasping capacity. That is, yeah, pilots cannot. Okay, pilots need to have a certain base level of grasping capacity. At the same time, we over evaluate grasping capacity and under evaluate the level of efforts. So if that person gives enough effort, next attempt that person will pass. Okay. Next reason can be opportunity, that okay, no airlines are coming up with an assessment round. This is something that is out of your hands. This is something that is not controlled by the candidate, right? So in that case, what other thing the person can do is probably get into a relevant job that is related to aviation, such as an airline ground staff or an airline cabin crew or an airline, something that that associates that person with aviation, with that company that the candidate is willing to join. Third reason can be, like you said, personal development, right? Like English or certain personality traits that are,
Yes.
now reflection of that would be not passing tests like adapt, cut e, compass, pilapt. Not passing those is an indication that there still needs some work on personal development, and not just for the sake of passing those tests, but actually working on those specific areas and then improving upon those. So once a person finds those constraints and gets rid of those constraints, then I don't see how that person does not get a job. Another point that is something, that is age. That if the age of 37 is passed in India, then the person does not get a job in India as a fresher CPL holder. Okay. In that case, what that person can do would be find a flight instructor's job.
Yes.
Gain ATPL. After gaining ATPL, then you are eligible for airlines jobs. Correct? That makes sense. Or if the person is willing to continue their career as an instructor, that person may choose to do so. So, in a broader perspective, are there unemployed pilots? Yes, there are. But the cause for each person that is unemployed is different. For someone it can be age, for someone it can be medical, for someone it can be the person may not want to do it. Person has found something else in the meanwhile. While that person was looking for a job, that person got involved into something and built a career out of it, has a pilot's license, but is completely doing something else at this moment. Okay, that can be a reason. So yes, there are unemployed pilots, but there are reasons for it. And in today's date, opportunities is not a significant reason for it, because there are airlines that are coming up with assessment exams, and there are opportunities that are available as we speak today. And the likeliness of those opportunities to be continuing for a couple of years, at least for a year or so at least, is pretty high.
Yes.
Right? So that would be my view. Anything you want to add on this?
That's it. I think we covered pretty much.
Yeah. Did that make sense, what I said?
Yes, definitely.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Next question. You read.
Yes. Next question is from Abbas. Career as a pilot better in India or Canada? So
guys, the reason that we are laughing is we get a lot of heat about this topic. Okay, so we are gonna not say anything about this, and we are just gonna say that do it in India.
Yes, and we have been saying this since we started the pilot podcast channel, and right now, apart from everything, the political tensions between India and Canada is not that great, and there can be curtails in the work visa as well.
Yeah.
And plus, the pay which you get in Canada is not that great to save money if you are taking any loan.
Right.
So, and then also, like once you get an ATPL, then you fly for the regional airlines until you gain some experience, then you go into majors.
Yeah.
So that transition will take around 5 to 7 years easily, and if you have taken loan, then it will be difficult to repay. So if you do it from India, that will be great according to us.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
everyone has their own views and opinions, and if you are planning to like immigrate to Canada, then go ahead and do it in Canada.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, if you're a fan of general aviation, which is flying small airplanes and all, which is fun. Okay, I'd love to do it after I become old. Like, I'm old, but not that old yet. Yes. But yeah, that is fun, definitely. But career-wise, I don't know about that. Okay, second thing is India is one of only few countries that gives a CPL holder with 250 hours an opportunity to get on the right seat of airliners like A320, ATRs, Boeing 737, all of these. So but very few countries in this world give that opportunity. So until that opportunity is open, it's up for grabs. Take it. That's what I would say on that. Okay, so answer would be India. Yeah.
Yes.
Now next
one is from Exa.
Yeah,
do we have a buffer period even for the cadet pilot program? Do they not get placed as soon as they finish their training? So for this question, there is I would say a myth which has been created during COVID. So when COVID was there was no plane flying in the air.
Yeah.
So there's no point to hire anyone in the airline. So since that day, I've been getting these questions a lot, like how much time do cadets have to wait once they complete their training and stuff. So during COVID, there was a backlog, and now there's no backlog. So once you are done with your training, once your paperwork is done, you're in the queue. Within 6 months, you will be in the airline. And if it takes a bit longer, 1 or 2 months longer than that, but within a year, I would say you'll be in the airline. And that 6 months which is waiting, 3 months you'll be waiting for your license and endorsement. Once you get that, you go for your company medicals. Once you get your medicals, then you will be in the queue. So that is the reason you have to wait for 6 months to get into the airline. So it's the procedure or the documentation procedure to be a part of the airline. So that is why that period is there.
Absolutely. Yeah, I don't have anything else to add to this. You explained it like everything thoroughly. So yeah, that's what it is. Cadet pilot programs do not have a significant buffer period or anything like that. It depends though. That said, we cannot anticipate what will be the state of the industry when you finish your cadet pilot program, whenever you join it. And at that time, whatever the situation of the industry is and pilot demand in that specific airline is, accordingly they'll set the pace for induction. It's right, makes sense, right?
Yes.
So because we cannot see the future how it will be in when you finish. Okay, hopefully, and we wish that it will be great. Okay. The retirement age of pilot in India, that would be 65
years.
Checked. Okay. Yep. Which flying school? So this is on a clip. It's a comment on a clip that is from Chintan. Which flying school is taking 45 lakhs? Please tell me. Many flight schools here. Many flight schools. Nowadays, they have increased the pricing for most flight schools.
Around 50 lakhs in India.
Most good flight schools are asking north of 50 lakh rupees, 50 to 55 lakh rupees in India. At the same time, there are certain schools that would charge around 40 to 45 lakh rupees. There are some schools that charge 35 lakh rupees as well, but I'd not prefer to go to those schools. What do you say?
Yeah. So let's say when you select a flight school, so there are a lot of factors which you have to see. Let's say in the past 6 months, you can reach out to students who have completed training in the past 6 months and who are enrolled at the flight school currently. Get a review how the flight school is, how's the management, how much time is it taking to fly. And one advice, if anyone is joining a flight school in India particularly, never pay the fees in full. Okay. Pay it in parts.
Yeah.
Okay. And let's say whatever initial amount is there, you just pay there and then go to the flight school, see how the flying is happening, and then you pay as you fly.
Absolutely. 100% makes sense. Because, yeah, check the weather, like how it is, then how are things going, what's up with the flight school. Then eventually, if you gain confidence, then pay the remainder amount if they are offering you certain concessions or something. But know about the flight school, experience the flight school, speak with the students and everything. Once you are certain that this is the place that you want to be, then go ahead with the same. That is what would tell you about it. Now, can you make a podcast about detailed discussion about airline selection process for pilots? Episode 53. Okay, check it out. Because, yeah. Right?
Yeah, we have done.
Yeah, we have
already done.
Yeah, it's done with all three of us. Go ahead and check that podcast.
So next question is from Shreya. May I know what is the fees for the program? Because I have to think of my finances and loan options. It would be really helpful if you can provide an estimate amount. So let's say there are two costs, I would say, to become a pilot. One is if you plan to do it from India. Say another one is you plan to do your training from abroad. So if you do it from India, to begin with, the class 1 and class 2 medicals around 15 to 30,000 rupees. Then you join a ground school to clear your DGCA papers around 2 to 2.5 lakh rupees. And then your flight training around 45 lakh rupees to 45 to 50 lakh rupees, including accommodation and food. And then around 10 to 15 lakh rupees for your type rating. So overall cost if you do a training from India is around 65 lakh rupees. If you do the same thing abroad, it would increase the cost to around 85 to 90 lakh
90
rupees.
lakh rupees.
Yeah.
Checked.
Yes.
Yeah, and if you're doing it with cadet pilot programs in India cost around 95 lakh rupees to 1 crore rupees. And if you're doing it from abroad, it depends on the FTO that you are choosing. At the same time, all FTOs are within 10% of pricing differences. But I would keep myself ready with at least 1.2 crore if I'm choosing any abroad cadet pilot program, at least. Okay, and plus 5 lakh rupees buffer if you keep with respect to your finances, that'll be great. Now, if you are doing a loan for this, when you get released as a first officer, okay, at that time a significant portion of salary will go towards the loan. Significant meaning almost half. Okay, the salaries vary between 2 to 3 lakh rupees depending on airline to airline for newly released first officers. And then after certain period of time, salaries increase about 1,000 hours, which takes around 1.5 years. Then salaries do increase. Then the senior first officer, once you get to senior first officer, then the EMI on those is not as, does not feel as significant part of the salary, I'd say. Because for senior first officer, salary is around 3.5 to 4.5 lakh rupees. So that's a pretty decent kind of salary to pay off the loan and to, yeah, you do the math according to your numbers that are there. But total amount for cadet pilot program abroad would be 1.2 crores average. India would be 95 to 1 crore. Conventional pathway in India would be 65 to 70 lakh rupees, correct?
Yes.
And yeah, that's it. No. Yeah, and
Yes,
what was that?
and-
Abroad conventional pathway would be 90 lakh rupees
Yeah,
average.
85 to 90 depending on where you do it.
Check.
And the finance options will be loan, mostly collateral loan, as educational loan is not an option for pilot training as it's a vocational course and not a degree course. So you need to have a collateral to take a loan from a bank. And let's say, assuming if I give you an example, let's say if the student has a property or the parents have a property of 1 CR, then around 50 to 60% of the amount of the property, 50 to 60% of the value of the property is given as a loan to the students. So if the property value is 1 crore, you'll get around 50 to 60 lakh rupees. And would advise to take 50-50 as a loan. So meaning 50% you take as a loan, 50% you fund by yourself. That's a good ratio. If you're taking the whole amount as loan, then calculate how much interest you'll be paying and how much AMI you will be giving out monthly once you complete your training.
Absolutely. Yep. Yeah, that's it about this.
That's about
Yeah.
it. And
Yeah.
there are hardly any scholarships available for this, so loan would be the only option.
Yeah, a message from Talha Khater. What will happen if we land below MDF at destination? Well, a lot will happen and it will stay on the records because below MDF landing is done at alternate, not at destination. It would be at destination alternate. So yeah, a lot will happen. A call from the company.
Call
chief.
from company, call from
And
DGCA.
DGCA. It'll stay on pilots' records, why it happened, and yeah, many things. So see, pilots are trained for these safety measures, and pilot make decisions based upon that. Why would a pilot land at destination without diverting to the alternate? No, a pilot does not do that. The pilot will divert to the alternate, refuel, there will be a new flight plan filed. If FDTL is there, the same set of crew, same airplane, same passengers will take off from that airport and go to the destination that was initially decided. So hypothetically, say Bombay Bangalore was the flight, and which would be alternate for Bangalore Hyderabad?
Hyderabad.
Yeah, Hyderabad. Okay, so something happens, runway closure, unexpected runway closure at Bangalore, say bird hit or something happens and there is debris on the runway, which it needs like 1 hour, and you reach your MDF, divert to Hyderabad, refuel in Hyderabad, runway opens in Bangalore, take off from Hyderabad, land in Bangalore, same passengers, same aircraft, same set of crew. You all reached your destination. Just took a little bit extra time. Not worth destroying careers over. Okay. So, make sense?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. But these are kind of technical questions based on decision making. Now, there can be reasons for it if that reason is explainable reason for it. Okay. If there is it's like layered questioning, one on multiple questioning that at the same time Hyderabad is also closed due to another bird strike and they do not have runway or something. Now a pilot has to make a decision that can he file another alternate which could be made good with available fuel. If not, is there a certainty that Bangalore will open now? That is a different kind of question. So if there is a explainable safe reason for it, yes, the pilot may be excused. If not, then the pilot will not be excused of the mistake. That's what it is, right?
Yes, that's it. And to answer this question, the situation in which a pilot is there is very dynamic. There are various permutation and combination to answer this question. But to keep it simple, you can't land below MDF.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you want further detail in fuel planning, okay, that person is not present in this podcast today. Okay. Yeah. I mean, we can tell you, but we are not teachers. So, okay, we are having these conversations with you as friends, your friends. Okay. If you give us the opportunity to be your friends, we'd be delighted. Thank you.
Yes. Moving on to the next question is by Arya Gathani. Does background matter in getting selected in an airline for job after conventional pathway? As in, are CPL holders with aviation degrees preferred over non-aviation degree holders? Do 12th physics and math marks or anything else that gives a competitive edge? So definitely, if you score well in your 12th in maths and physics, it looks good on your resume. Speaking about the degree, so let's say there are two types of degree, let's say aviation related degrees or non-aviation related degrees, and the people have just cleared their 12th standard. So the level of interview will depend on your background and everyone will be treated on the same level. There's no partiality in aviation in the interview, in pilot interview specifically. Whatever background you come from, the interview will be based on that. And it truly depends on your performance, how you perform in the interview, that gets you selected. There's no competitive edge for anyone in an interview. Everyone starts from scratch.
Absolutely. At the same time, your past experience, if you have worked in aviation in other capacity, such as something for the airline, it does give one kind of brownie point, if you will.
Yes.
Right? It does. But that won't be the core and sole reason for being selected. That would be just one brownie point and a consideration. The person has worked. That's about it. Now, that can also be your achievements in other areas. Okay, that will also give you brownie points. But at the same time, unless you are good with what's required, the knowledge, the specific knowledge of aviation that is expected in that interview. If you are type rated, then the type knowledge. If you are a CPL holder, then the DGCA exams, ATPL level knowledge, nav, matrix, tech, and then performance and all of those things, mass and balance, all of those things, Jepson charts. Okay, you must know that. That's what it is. Okay. Uh, yeah. So a brownie point if you have something, but not the core reason, right?
Yes, yes, definitely. So next question is from Satyendra Kumar. I have a query that am I eligible for a CPL if I have double thumb in my left hand? Please know that we are not DGCA medical examiners nor medical examiners or practitioners. So we don't generally give advice to anyone. So if you have a condition or if you feel that there is something of which can affect your pilot medicals, the best person to contact is class 1 DGCA medical examiners. So that doctor will give you a clarity on how you can proceed further and what all things or what all tests you will have to go under. And once you get your class 1 medical certificate, then only invest money into your pilot training. Yes, moving on to the next question by Varshini Gopiraj. I have a doubt how many flying hours is required to join an airline in India. So if we speak about flying in India or joining an airline in India, you need to have a CPL. And to get a CPL in India, you need to fly for 200 hours. So the minimum flying hours to get into an airline in India is 200 hours. And in those 200 hours also, there's bifurcation on how many hours of cross country solo you have to do, how many hours of solo hours you have to do, night time, daytime, cross country, IR time. So all of that combined is 200 hours to get into an airline in India.
Yeah. And if it is Airbus, you do need certain multi-engine hours as well. And certain airlines that recruit on Boeing, they also need certain multi-engine hours. So including that, like Chintan said, 200 hours. So for Airbus, it's I think 15 hours of flight training.
Yes. 15 hours on multi-engine aircraft, 10 hours on multi-engine simulator.
Exactly. Yep.
And that is only for, I would say, the cadet pilot program. For conventional, most of the vacancy asks for a multi-engine CPL.
Yeah, multi-engine rating on
Or
your CPL or multi-engine CPL. Why aren't we talking about the salaries and salary increment of pilot as per inflation? Okay, so as per inflation, now that is again for the airlines to decide what salaries will be, what is the viable amount that they can afford as cost to company per pilot, all of those things. At the same time, average salaries in India, we have discussed it
Yes,
a
yes.
few times. To revise on those average salaries of pilots in India would be, as a newly released first officer, it's 2.5 to 3 lakh rupees. All these numbers are gross salaries. So tax is deducted from the salary. Then after about 1,000 hours, that there is a 50,000 hike to it. So 3 to 3.5 lakh rupees would be gross salary after 1,000 hours on that specific type aircraft. Then after clearing ATPL exams and once the ATPL is issued, which is around 1,500 to 2,000 hours mark, because there is certain requirement for supervised takeoff and landings, which is PF sectors. So 1,500 to 2,000 hours, salary goes to 3.5 to 4.5 lakh rupees. After that, as per the airline requirement for command, or upgrade to wide body. Once you get that, then the salaries are north of 6 to 7 lakh rupees. Some airlines have salaries of up to 10 to 12 lakh rupees as well, such as I think uh, Akasa is paying pretty good salaries.
Yes.
Yeah. So those are the numbers. So captain salary is 10 to 12 lakh rupees in India.
Yeah, senior captain, I would
Senior,
say.
yeah, senior captain, yeah. Now there are different kinds of contracts as well. There are different kinds of leaves contracts. Whether is the person, the captain, willing to fly up to maximum of his or her FDTL, or is willing to give more time to the family and is willing to take a lower flying contract. It depends. Depending upon those, the salaries vary. Okay, but one can, if a pilot is hardworking enough, dedicated enough, then about 4 to 6 years a pilot can get to those salaries after release.
Yes,
Yeah,
pretty much.
yeah. The lowest would be 3 years, and yeah, usually 3 to 6 years a pilot gets to captain's salary. So after becoming a captain, then the salary increase, the salary kinda flattens out. Then next jump is after quite some time. That depends on the loyalty bonus and the number of years spent with one particular airline and all of those things. Inflation, now we are again not like experts of economics and yeah, with respect to inflation, yes, airlines change their salaries. At the same time, with inflation, fuel costs increase as well, so the airlines have to manage their costs. So as and when airlines find it appropriate, and it's a demand and supply thing, that how many pilots are there in that specific country's aviation market, how many pilots are needed of that competency. According to that, airlines decide what salaries to give. But as of now, these are the average salaries. Make sense?
Yes, yes, definitely. Pretty much covered everything, I'd say. Yes. Then moving on to the next question. If a person get below 50% in 10 plus 2, can he become a pilot? Yes, he can become a pilot. But if the student wants to appear for the cadet pilot program, minimum 51% is required in maths and physics individual subject. The student can go for conventional pilot program as long as he or she have cleared 12 standard. But let's say if that student wants to go for the cadet pilot program, then he can appear for maths and physics exam via NIOS, National Institute of Open Schooling, and score above 51% and then apply for the cadet pilot program.
Absolutely, 100%. That makes sense. What did Captain Neha do for 7 years when she didn't have a job? The loan has to be repaid immediately, right? The banks are not going to wait for your salary to come. So what do we need to do at that time? Okay, what do you need to do maybe different than, maybe or could be different than what Captain Neha did? Captain Neha started preparing for airlines. She finished in 2008. I've seen her closely during that time. And then the economic crisis happened. So there was no sight of any airline vacancies coming for a couple of years at least. So she started just helping her friends to pass DGCA exams, just to keep her knowledge fresh. She started helping them. Eventually, the number of her colleagues and friends increased so much that she got worked up with that. So one of her friend, Evita Rodriguez, who is an airline pilot, suggested her, why don't you start taking classes, like legit? She was like, yeah, but I need to study even harder in order to be able to teach. So what Captain Neha did was she did study a lot. She prepared her own initial set of proprietary draft notes, and then she took a job in a flight school to teach as a ground instructor. She started doing that, and then eventually, after working there for some time, she started taking her own classes. She didn't teach in that flight school for too long because the there were certain reasons for that. Okay, I won't go into the reasons. And then she started taking her own class. So since 2008, she started teaching, and 2008, by the end, she had her own DGCA classes, which is now CNTAA, the pilot ground school. So 2008 to 2024 now, and counting, and will continue to be counting. Captain Neha has been teaching, so she has a long experience in teaching. What should you do? Okay, I'm not a much believer of shoulds. I would say anything that keeps you relevant with the industry, anything that keeps your knowledge fresh. Now, when Captain Neha did that, and then when the airlines came up with vacancies, all of a sudden, she was doing that already for years. She had her ATPL cleared, she had everything ready. She just had to go for the exam and sit there and do it, and she passed. First opportunity she got, she passed. Why? Because she did keep herself relevant. Okay, so what you can do, find any means that keep you relevant, find any means that get you closer to that dream of becoming an airline pilot. One of those would be taking a job in another capacity. Another one would be keep on studying, helping your friends. Okay, another of those would be taking a job in a flight school as an instructor. It can be a ground instructor, it can be a flight instructor, whatever that suits you. So yeah, what would you say on that?
Yeah, start working. Let's say if you are having a family business, you can work in family business, or if you want to work as or if you want to work in fields which are related to aviation, you can join an airline and different posts, like there's ground staff, there's dispatcher, there's various position available. So you can always look up to that and take it in a positive manner, because everything you do related to aviation will only take you closer to that cockpit. And at so this point, once you complete your training and the airline job you get, the time duration is not sure. You always have to keep a buffer of a year or two if you're planning to take a loan, and keep yourself current, because let's say if you are waiting for 6 months, there's no vacancy. Next month the vacancy comes, and at that point, if you start preparing, you won't be able to cover, and then the student will miss up on the opportunity.
Yeah.
So continue your studies. Okay, as soon as you complete your CPL, don't close your books. Continue revision 1 week, 2 week, every 2 weeks revise certain things, certain chapters. And once you are current with the knowledge, whenever that interview comes, you'll be ready, you'll clear it in the first one.
Absolutely, 100%. Yep. Do a video on how many working days or working hours for a pilot in a week, month, and a year. So, yeah. So let's discuss the like FDTL one, and second we can discuss is the duty hours, because it's like people think that only FDTL is what pilots work. It's a little bit more than that. Yeah, go ahead.
So as per FDTL, monthly we can fly around 100 hours, right?
Yeah.
And in a year, cumulative, it's around 1,000 hours. So that is FDTL. So that is, once you hit that thing, you cannot fly more than that.
Yeah.
And second thing is, depending upon the company that a pilot is working, there are certain contracts under which that pilot is working. So they might be working for 40-hour contract, they might be working for 70-hour, for 90-hour, depending on that. And then depending on that, the contract which the pilot is hired on, the number of working days is decided by the airline, decided by the rostering team of that airline. So on an average, I would say if a pilot is on a 70-hour contract, would be around 12 to 18 days of flying, and 12 days would be off, I would say. But that 12 days won't be particularly off at your home. It can be in other city as well, but most of it will be at your home base.
Yeah, absolutely. Apart from that, these hours, the FDTL hours, are flight duty hours. These are not the ground time. So these are the hours chocks off to chocks on, meaning the time at which we release the parking brake on the aircraft to the time we set the parking brakes for each sector. Okay, so if we are doing 4 sectors in a day, for each of those legs, say Bombay, Bangalore, Bangalore, Bombay, Bombay, Hyderabad, Hyderabad, Bombay, every time we release the parking brake, time starts. Every time we set the parking brake, time stops. Now, duty time would be before the flight, we go to the dispatch, we prepare for the flight, read the NOTAMs, check the weather, then read about the airport that we are going on. Are there any specific runway closures? There is a flight preparation. If you are doing your CPL, you would know what it is. In CPL level, it is relatively lesser. In airlines, it is similar. At the same time, we also have to check whether there are any MELs for the aircraft. We have to check the aircraft status. Are there any CDLs for that aircraft? Any procedures related to it? So all of those things. Now this time of preparation for the flight is not included in FDTL. That is included in duty time. So duty time per day cannot exceed for 12 hours. Okay. And the flight time for the day may not exceed more than 8 hours. Now there are certain exceptions to it with pilot's approval that can be made for a specific flight for a specific reason due to delays or something, but that would be going into too much detail of it. So primarily FDTL is what Chintan said, 8 hours in a day, 100 hours in a month, and you have 1000 hours in preceding 365 days. 365 days meaning it's not like Jan to 1st Jan to 31st December 1000 hours. Okay, yeah, that will be 1000 hours. At the same time, whatever date that you are counting from, if you look back 365 days, your total should not be more than 1000 hours of flight time. Make sense?
Yes, it's perfect.
Yeah. Now, can you make a podcast on journey of aspiring pilots in his or her flying school? The challenges you faced, the mistakes you made, and anything that you learned from it. Yeah, we can discuss about this.
Yes, and I would say we have covered a bit of this thing in the first question.
Yeah.
And yes, we have. So, like on the YouTube channel, we have documented when I was doing my flying, when we were doing our flying and the US. So you can check that out. And mistakes, if we speak about mistakes, there can be a couple of mistakes which a pilot can make during their training. So if I start with what mistake I did, so that was not clearing my DGCA exams before I started my flight training. So I was into the notion that once I come back from my flight training, I clear the exams. And the flight school also didn't tell me anything. It's like, okay, that's okay. Because when you are enrolled at a flight school, you're very eager to like fly the aircraft. You want to fly the aircraft right now. So that was the state I was in. Okay. But that was my mistake, and I accepted and I learned from it. And now I share this mistake with everyone so that student pilot don't repeat it. So what happened due to that mistake of mine? So when I came back to India, there was COVID, okay, and there was lockdown, so DGCA exams were not happening at regular intervals of 3 months at that time. So because of that, my recency was lapsed, and then I had to fly around 20 to 25 hours additional to maintain my recency, and I did clear my papers as well. So to avoid getting into such situations, I would advise everyone to clear their DGCA exams and RTR if you're doing your training from a non-Commonwealth country, and then only go abroad for your flight training. That will save you a lot of time, a lot of money, and a lot of hassle, to be honest.
Absolutely. Yeah. If I wanna add any of my mistake during pilot training would be, so there are, I would put it in micro mistakes and macro mistakes. Micro mistakes would have short term consequences. Macro mistakes that would be long term consequences. So again, I would go on the same path that looking back, it feels like it was so amazing being in the US and getting to fly a Cessna by yourself and all of those things,
Yes.
right? At the same time, when in that moment, there were days that were significantly stressful. Now looking back, it feels like, okay, we laugh on those days. Those
Yes.
days are stressful days. Okay, that wow. Okay, that exam. Okay, all right. At the same time, even when I was into those stressful times, I didn't think of it that these will be the stories in future to tell.
Mhm.
Okay, so think of it, if you choose to think of it in that way, you manage your expectations and you set your expectations in an appropriate level, that what kind of story about yourself you would like to tell in future. If you do it, look at it that way, you will give your best. Okay, I would not say that in each of those difficult days that I have given my best. Probably in some I did, sometimes I did not. Okay, yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely. So that is how it is, but we somehow managed to overcome it, and we got our CPLs. Okay, and we were happy and satisfied when we did so. But we, yeah, enjoyed there. Definitely mistakes were made, some small mistakes, some okay, don't just do mistakes that will have permanent consequences. Try not doing those. uh, we did not do any such mistakes that would be like showing up late for a flight, showing up drunk for a flight, or showing up under influence for a flight. So these are all disciplinary kind of things that a pilot does not get away with. We never had any of those kind of mistakes. Guys, it was fun addressing your questions, and thank you for watching and subscribing. If you are an aspiring pilot, do consider signing up for CNTAA CNTAA trains you for the DGCA exams in the best way that there is. If you are looking for offline training for your DGCA exams, you can get in touch with us on CNTAAonline.in by filling up your application, or you can get in touch with us on 9930 Franklin from Team CNTA will be getting in touch with you on that number.
Yes, thank you for watching this podcast. So if you have any such questions and you're looking for answers, list them down in the comment section below, and we'll try to do this monthly podcast for
Yeah.
Q&A so
Yeah.
that we solve your queries as soon as possible. And it's a great medium to solve the questions or solve all the doubts as well. So list them down and we'll get back to you every month.
Absolutely.
Okay, and drop, like, if possible, frame it in a good way along with your name, so that when we address the question, we'll be also
Yeah.
telling your name with the question.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank
Okay.
you. Have a great day.
See you soon, guys.
Bye.
Bye.